Hey, Chris Liepe here. Benjamin Burnley, Breaking Benjamin. A lot of you have asked for this guy in the sing-like format, so I'm excited to get into it. He's got a lot going on. His transitions from different dynamics and the way he uses different voices, screaming, light mix, heavy mix, all these things, they happen without us really thinking about it. But when you really dig down into what he's doing, there's lots that we can put into our own voice and experiment with. And with a singer like this, where there is a lot going on, we tend to go to what we hear and try to put that into our own voice, which can be a good thing, but not if you don't have the fundamentals down. If you don't understand things like basic breath support or placement, or how to differentiate different feels within your throat. Are you going too hard on your vocal cords? Are you able to engage the area above your larynx? These things you have to be conscious of and understand in your own voice before you can go and work directly with someone like Benjamin Burnley. So if you want help with the foundations and beyond, click the link below and join my free vocal course, and I'll help you dial this stuff in so that you can tackle stuff like this. All right, here we go. Example 1. I would put myself right beside you. All right, let's talk about his tone, his placement. If we were to just sing this, if I were to just sing this, I would put myself right beside you. But let's not stop there. Even though that sounded fine, we want to figure out what he's doing. And some of these things are so simple. It's just a matter of thinking a different way and having your body follow. They're not difficult to do. But if we listen to what he does here, I would put myself right. Listen to self. Self, 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 self. There's this sense of forward. There's this sense of putting the word out, projecting it out instead of having it in. So if we apply that to the whole phrase, I would put myself right beside you. I would put myself right beside you. I would put myself right beside you. You, self, self, self. So just by focusing on putting it forward, and I've talked about this in other videos like the Gerard Way video, where we're almost vomiting out the notes. Put myself right beside you. That sounds extreme, and a lot of us are afraid to experiment with extreme for fear of sounding dumb or looking dumb. But by experimenting with the extreme, after listening to something like this, taking what you hear and putting it in your own voice in an extreme way, it will allow us to dial it back to something that's a bit more reasonable in our own voices. But you'd be surprised how little you actually have to dial it back when you practice this form of aggression. I would put myself right beside you. Oh, I would put myself right beside you. There's actually some really acceptable things there, right? It may feel awkward when you're first doing it, but trust the process. Trust the process of going overboard and then dialing it back. Next. Okay, so we've got a continuation of this, do you like that? Do you like that? And I'm just letting my voice sort of break up as it does. Now, there's all sorts of things we could talk about here as far as compression. Do you like that? Do you like that? Do you like that? Do you like that? Where I'm holding back air at the same time I'm pushing with my primary support, and that creates that grit. But at this point, I am letting that stuff happen based on the way I've practiced. Again, fundamentals. So then we transition to, of course, this is obviously overdubbed, and live, lots of other band members help him with background vocals and screams and stuff like that. But he does do some of the screams also. So we're going to treat all of this together on these studio recordings. So we go from, do you like that? Do you like that? And of course that's doubled. And then we go to, do you like that? No! Now that's a middle to lower sounding scream. And a lot of the stuff that I've done on this channel has been talking about how to find this aggressive scream by exploiting your vocal break. That works when we're going higher in our range, like this. Do you like that? No! Where I have targeted a note that is no! Right now. Do you like that? No! That's kind of a cool sound, but it's not what he's doing. He's doing something lower, and there's less pitch involved, although we still want to think about it as some sort of pitch. In order to get this aggressive lower in our range, we can't go off of exploiting the break the same way that we've done in other videos, that I've shown you in other videos. So it's good to study this. Let's get there. So I'm going to assign a pitch to it. Do you like that? No! That's the clean pitch I'm going to base everything off of when it comes to getting this aggressive scream. And I find that this way of approaching it, especially in the lower realms, because it does take a bit more airflow and a bit more strategy, at least for me, by thinking about the scream as having something clean and then building over the top of that and then removing the clean sound as the prominent force. Does this come about by just more and more brute force over a clean note until your voice breaks up? Absolutely not. It comes by adding the distortion with the area above your larynx over the clean sound and then making the distortion more and more of a focus until the original pitch is not heard that much. You could think about it in some ways like an electric guitar distortion. We start with a clean sound and then we add the effect over it. The effect is being added above our larynx with our false chord area. It's not by going harder and harder on the chords or just pushing more and more. Now, will or can we push more? Yes. Will we push more as we're dialing in that compression, as we're dialing in airflow, the right airflow to get the right level of intensity? Yes. But it doesn't come about by simply pushing more. We have to understand the engagement of the area above our larynx in order to make this work. Do you like that? No! Do you like that? No! Do you like that? Now, no! I'm going to add some compression to it. No! 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 So same pitch, but I'm using the area above my vocal cords, like that, to get a little bit of grit. Do you like that? No! Now that's kind of a neat sound, but it's still not what he's doing. He's not doing this. Do you like that? No! Which is more broken up, but it's higher. Do you like that? No! Do you like that? No! Now, at the same time I'm adding this lots of compression, I'm going to continue to try to make my voice crack or break, even though that's nowhere near my break. Do you like that? No! Now that's the same thing as higher. Do you like that? No! No! It's just easier to get there. Do you like that? No! Do you like that? No! You hear what's happening? It's getting more and more extreme. Do you like that? No! Now we have the ability to sort of pull out the primary pitch. I've got the engagement above my larynx. Chord closure with that pitch is not as necessary. This takes a ton of practice and a ton of introspection to get this stuff timed and working so that you're not going hard on your chords, that you're engaging your upper area of your throat. It does take a lot of practice, but I'm showing you how to get there so over time you can practice dialing this in. Do you like that? No! Do you like that? No! There it is. We've got less emphasis on pitch but you can hear the transition into it. As you practice this more and more, including myself, you'll be able to dial this in a way where you turn it on, even in those lower phrased screams. All right, next. Now, this scream, he's got a very, what have I become? We want to take special note of his mouth position. If you listen to him here, I would put myself, yeah. He's forward, there's some nasalness going, he's smiling, he's showing his teeth, yeah, la. But if you listen to his core tone here, his bass tone, let's dissect it from the actual scream. You picture, what have I become? Now that's not the end sound, but that's his positioning with his mouth. What? So he's got this longer sound, this more open sound, and a more open throat, which is very prominent in lower screams. Your throat is more open, even though you're using upper throat constriction to get that sound. And I'll unpack that a little bit more here in a second. But if you watch him in music videos or even live, there is this thing that happens when he is going from his singing, that is happening. It's subtle, but it's there. So let's take what we did with the last short scream and apply it here and get close to what he's doing, his approach. So the core pitch is, what have I become? What have I? Oh, we're going to sort of yawn, open things up. Now, we're opening up part of our throat, but we're still going to add the same sort of engagement to the upper part of our throat. So, dropping the larynx. Oh, what have I become? It's getting closer, right? My face might look dumb. I don't care. It might sound weird right now. Don't care. We're experimenting with extremes to get to the place where things become more and more useful. What have I become? Now, does my tone match what his does relatively, not considering the extreme breakup? What have I become? Yes, I think so. Now, there's this, the same approach that we took last time, where we're going to add more compression. What have I? What? Dial it back so the tone can still come through. That's happening above. That's why my voice isn't being trashed as I'm doing it. What have I become? Okay, now we're going to make our voice, or let our voice crack, even though it's a lower pitch. Purely a chest note. What have I become? That's living in that break, right? What have I? Now we're going to combine that with the other approach. What? There it is. What have I become? Now, am I using a lot of air? Is my face turning a little bit red? Yeah. But that matches the intensity. It doesn't happen out of necessity. In other words, I could be much more relaxed. What have I become? What have I become? But if I want to really get what I'm hearing as intense in his voice, and it is intense, what have I become? I'm going to push a little bit more. But the pushing, the airflow is being curtailed by the area above my larynx, by my false chord area above my voice box. It's not exposing damaging amounts of volume or pressure. Let's experiment now with the raising and lowering of pitch screams, and let's be free with it. Let's take this idea of combining the two approaches and put it in our own voice and be less shackled to exactly what he's singing. Do you like that? Do you like that? What have I become? What have I become? What have I? What have I? Let yourself crack. It's okay. Dialing things in. This is how you discover. What have I become? What have I? What have? What have? What have? What have? What have? Next. Leave the lost and dead behind. Okay, here's the subtle dynamic shifts I was talking about. Listen to the first part. Leave the lost and leave the lost. Leave the, it's not leave the lost and dead behind. It's this. Leave the lost and dead behind. Leave the lost. Leave the lost and dead behind. This dynamics, it creates this amazing emotional connection with the line. Leave the lost and dead behind. There's a real opportunity to use light, almost, it's not quite head voice. Leave the lost, although you could. Leave the lost and dead behind. Also notice behind. Leave the lost and dead behind. Behind. There's that little hind. There's a little bit of a crack. It's not just behind. It's not behind. Behind. That's a little more extreme than what he's doing, but it's there. Leave the lost and dead. Leave the lost. Leave the lost and dead behind. Next. I don't want to change the world. Now that high one, I don't want. There's compression, there's mix happening, there's lots of things I've talked about on this channel before, but I like this because it's a huge contrast to what he's done earlier, where he's lower, and I don't want, where he's doing stuff like that. Here, it's cleaner, but still compressed. Let's get there. I don't want to change the world. A little more compression. I don't want to change the world. I don't want to change. Got that really forward sound, that almost a little bit of vomiting sound that we've talked about before. I don't want to change the world. I don't want to change the world. Next. Okay, where's the pitch on that one? Using what we've done so far. Fall. And you can hear it's doubled and multi-tracked, and there's extra compression and distortion, like audio distortion, put on top of that. So we have to keep that in mind when we're going for these sorts of tones. When you put that stuff on there, the initial pitch tends to be drawn out even more. And by drawn out, I mean buried, not put in prominence. Fall. Okay. Fall. 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 There it is. That long, open the road. Lots of grit. Combining compression, combining the pursuit and resting in the middle of your vocal break, even though it's low. Next. Every endless word. Oh, listen to the way he says endless. Every endless word. every endless word. Every endless word. Now, what I did looks pretty extreme, but it's what he's doing. I mean, he's really being extreme here. Every comma there, every endless word. Don't discount this kind of thing. This is the easiest thing to discount when we're listening to other singers. They couldn't possibly be making that much of a fool of themselves in the studio, could they? Every endless word. Every endless word. But we've seen it and we've heard it time and time again. We tend to ignore this kind of thing, because we're being all cool and collected. But this is vulnerability. This is vulnerability through expression. And don't be afraid to look or sound dumb. Again, when we go and we do this stuff over the top, or what we feel like is over the top, and then dial it back less than we think we have to, we can discover some really neat things about our voice. Every endless word. Every endless word. Every endless word. Lower larynx to higher larynx, and at the same time showing your teeth. Now, this is all totally safe and awesome as long as we are doing it independent of the vowels we are forming. We don't want to be forming our vowels in the back of our throat. We want to be forming our vowels forward. More on that in my course. But when we do this, we have the freedom to adjust our tone dynamically, which is exactly what he's doing here, and it creates this amazing amount of intensity. Next. Now, here's a higher. Well, let's take that very end there. Now, there's also background vocals with happening in the background there. And the pitch is accentuating that. They've matched it together. And I've done a video on this about how layering different sounds can bring out different articulations and different things about different screams. Compress, break. There it is. We've lived in that. We've combined this compressed, in this case, mixed higher sound with the break. Next. Now, this is a duet that he's doing, and this first excerpt, it's a cover song, of course. It's how clean he is, even with the female. And I don't want the world. There's this, he might even be, it's tough to tell. It feels like he's even going into either a very thin mix or a head voice there. But then he grounds himself. See me! He grounds himself there. But the blend is neat. So he can clearly get pretty high and clean. And we saw that in an earlier example too. But let's look at the next example. Same notes. Now listen very carefully. We've got the clean female voice in front. But he's really, it's not everything's, it's everything's meant to be broken. Listen. You hear that? Meant! You hear that? Everything's meant to be broken! As he's singing the word broken, you hear the broken behind the clean female voice, and it's really cool. So this just shows you, I chose these two examples because being able to sing it both ways and being able to dial in that level of grit intentionally can drastically change the surroundings. It puts that clean female voice that's in front of him in a very different light. I love stuff like this. Starting clean, and you can actually hear the transition into grit. Now, he's doing it seamlessly. Like that. But we want to peel back the layers a little bit, slow things down, show the warts, get there, right? Time is the basic pitch. Time. It's not even really a very pure note. Time. Time. That's what's happening. We're invoking the vocal break. At least that's how I approach it. A lot of people don't think about it this way. But I find that I'm able to approach it this way because invoking the vocal break does not imply in my own voice that I have to push harder. Now, I wind up pushing harder, especially when I start getting lower in actual breath. But that's not necessarily a good thing. We want to start with enough breath so that we don't have to go down into that lower sort of demanding caving in area, right? Time! And you can hear me start to crack a little bit if I speed that up. Time! You can go in and out of that without having to have that sort of awkward breaky thing. But give it time. Give it time experimenting with doing a lot of this. Time! Time! Like there's an in-between that's kind of just incidental almost. I've rested there. I've learned how to rest there. Time! Happened right away that time. Time! 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 Very cool. Last example. It's all right. I like these articulation things that he does. It almost has this sort of Eastern vibe to it. It's all right. It's all right. It's all right. Slow these down. It's all right. It's all right. And then add a little bit of grit. Also listen. It's all right. Lots of vocals going on around him. There's lots of production. Hone in on the singing, the main lead vocal, and don't let these things distract you in thinking that they are part of his lead vocal tone. They are enhancing the experience of his lead tone, but they are not part of his lead vocal tone. Those softer, it's all those things, the lower, it's all, those are distractions, although cool distractions, from what's actually going on in his voice. It's all right. He does have some neat, it's all right. It's all right. Those are fun things to work with. And a lot of people get this sort of coordination in their voice by developing scales. I've really found it more beneficial to work with smaller things like la, starting slow with just 3 notes and testing that coordination in different parts of your range. Thanks for watching. Thanks for learning along with me and discovering different ways we can pull things out of Benjamin's voice. Again, if you'd like to take your voice further, take foundations and apply them to real singing, click that link below and join my free vocal course. Let me know what other artists you'd like me to break down this way, and we'll see you for more.